Hi, I'm Joni Patry, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Well, today I want to talk about an aspect that I kind of thought was over, but it is not, and it is that Saturn and Uranus are going to square for the last and the fourth time. Usually it only happens 3 times, so this is going to be a doozy. Because Saturn in hard aspect to Uranus is always something extreme and dramatic, and I think I'll prove my point in this video. But before I progress on, I want to remind everyone to sign up for my free newsletter. Go to my website, galacticcenter.org, and you will get all of my predictions delivered to your email every week. And while you're there, don't forget to check out my beautiful spiritual jewelry and classes that are coming. July 6th, we're going to begin the semester 1 with the University of Vedic Astrology, and you won't want to miss it. If you've always wanted to learn astrology, this is the answer. Check it out, universityofvedicastrology.com. Now, I'm going to talk about Saturn in its square to Uranus. Now, Saturn and Uranus will conjunct each other about every 45 years. But they create a hard aspect, which I call the hard aspect, the conjunction, the square, the opposition. And in its process, when they come together, then about 12 years, 11 years to 12 years, they will create a square from the conjunction, and I call it the waxing square because it's moving, it's like the waxing moon. But then it will be they will be in opposition another 11 to 12 years. Then they will be back in a square again, and I call that the waning square, another 12 years later. And then they will conjunct again an additional 12 years later. So in that cycle of 4 hard aspects, the conjunction, the waxing square, the opposition, the waning square, and back to the conjunction takes 45 years. But let me give you some ideas of what it's caused before, because when Saturn was conjunct Uranus, 2 of the time periods I was looking at were first in 1942. What was going on in 1942? World War II was at a peak then. Then in 1988, we had the Uranus-Saturn conjunction. And those of you that weren't old enough probably don't remember, but there was a serious terrorist crash of an aircraft, major aircraft into Lockerbie, Scotland, a Pan Am crash. And it was when the plane elevated to a certain elevation, a bomb went off, and of course the plane crashed. But this started some pretty serious terrorism at that time. So that's just to give you a rough idea. And one of the last hard aspects in 2008, Saturn was opposed Uranus. And for those of you, most of you will remember, that was a terrible stock market crash in 2008. It was really tough. And it took a long time to rebound from that one. And even if I went back to the 1929 crash, Saturn was squaring Uranus again at that point. So we have a lot of other things going on at the same time that we're going to have this last and final square. Now, they do not square exactly to the second, but they do by degree. And trust me, that's way, way, way enough. So it's going to be towards the end of, it's going to be that they're going to start really forming this hard square. It's going to start in the fall in the northern hemisphere. Very extreme, because at the same time you're going to find that Mars is going to start going retrograde in October 30th. Now Saturn will square it will be at 24 degrees of Capricorn, while Uranus is at 24 degrees of Aries. They will come to that degree marking. And this will be the end of September, early October, that they will both be Saturn in Capricorn 24 degrees and Uranus in Aries at 24 degrees. And when this happens, here's another thing. As you could see in some of my examples, it deals with war, stock market crashes, and airline crashes. I actually wrote an in-depth article on this aspect and all the different time frames that this occurred and what I suspect is going to be happening with this one in my new University of Vedic Astrology journal. And this is going to be compiled in my new magazine that's going to be launched in July. So be aware. I'll keep you posted on all of this. This is a wonderful in-depth article that I did great research on this aspect. Now, continuing on what this can mean when we get to this time period, the end of September, October. Yeah, the economy. You think it's down now? We haven't seen nothing yet. I think that's going to be where it could really crater. And that's going to be a time when I don't think it's going to rebound. And we're going to be stuck with a lot of things till the end of the year. Watch that. Because Saturn is in the sign of Capricorn. And while it's in Capricorn, this deals with government and leadership. And Uranus being in Aries means something new has to strike out, and it clashes. Something big is happening in governments around the world, especially in the United States. Because another thing that's occurring while Saturn goes back into Capricorn, between the end of July till the end of the year, till about the second week of January, Saturn will be in Capricorn mid-July to around the second week of January of 2023. During that period, it's going to be tough for countries, leaders, especially since Saturn is in Capricorn, of leadership and governments. Something big is going to change, I can assure you. And one thing that kind of bothered me was I noticed that there was a big change in government and leadership in 1963 with Kennedy. And that was the last time that Saturn was in Capricorn and Jupiter was in Pisces. And that's what we're looking at between July of 2022 through January, about the second week of January of 2023. This is tough stuff we're facing. These aspects. Remember, astrology is giving us clues and guidance by going back historically to see what these major aspects caused before. We can better prepare for the future. So I'm very concerned about this because this doesn't usually happen for this long, this squaring of Saturn with Uranus. Of course, this deals with the process of the retrogrades as to how many times it occurs and for how long. So there's one more go round. And one thing that I did note also, in the time period of one of the hard aspects, I believe it was in 2007. Yes, and it was 2007 and 2008 that this opposition was going on between Uranus and Saturn. And there was one of the hardest hit earthquakes in Peru that year ever. Now remember, this happens about every, I'd say, 11 to 12 years. What's kind of interesting that I pointed out before is that the sunspot activity kind of has the same cycle of around 11 years. So I thought that was important because this always caused major crises going on in and on our planet at these time intervals and time periods. So this is interesting. I mean, Capricorn is about government leadership, And that's got to change. Everything is going to shift and change this last part, July through January. So one more thing I want to add about all of this. It pertains to shaking of the earth. So it's going to deal with, you're going to see many earthquakes coming about at this time. Airplane problems, there could be some catastrophes with airlines around this time as well. But most of all, be aware of the stock market. Everything is going to be turned upside down during this time. So I just want you to get a know of this and why I'm predicting all of this. It's not only that I see Mars going retrograde October 30th and Saturn squaring Uranus, but Mars coming together with Uranus and Rahu. So with this, I want everyone to know how to prepare for this coming aspect of Saturn squaring Uranus. So with that, I'll close. If you would like more information on me, please go to my website, which is galacticcenter.org. And don't forget, you can study with me with my university. Go to University of Vedic Astrology.com. Thank you.